Greetings and thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. I'm here with Garrett Gunderson. He's with Freedom Fast Tracked, and he's the author of Killing Sacred Cows, Overcoming the Financial Myths That Are Destroying Your Prosperity. Garrett, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Garrett, ever since I was a young boy, I always knew something was wrong with the 401k. It's people like you who actually go out there and show people what's wrong with it. I noticed in your bio on your website, and it talked about how conventional finance advice is more than just wrong, but it's actually a hindrance to your wealth. So my question is, what is wrong with the current mindless model of automatic deductions into the 401k account? According to Dave Ramsey and others, not to bash him or what he does, but they talk about putting it in mutual funds. It will be at 12% return, and at the end of the day, you'll have a large number like the ING commercials, a big number to draw off.
Right. Well, I would start by saying I really am not a fan of mutual funds, and I'll say why. But the way that you can make mutual funds even worse is to put it inside of a 401k. Now, I kind of start with two questions. Anytime someone's doing a 401k or, wants to know about it, I say, do you think taxes are going up or down? And what do you think most people say?
Going up.
Yeah. And I'll say, do you plan on being more or less successful in the future? And pretty much everybody says more successful, and I got to tell you, they better be, because inflation is going to be so tough on them that if they don't have a lot more money than they think they need, then they're going to find themselves with so much less purchasing power. So how in the world are they going to be in a lower tax bracket unless they have more tax deductions, which is unlikely, or they have a whole lot less money, which isn't a good situation. It's almost like the financial planners, like some of the ones you've named, are admitting that they're planning for failure because they're telling them they're going to have less money in the future. Well, 30 years ago, if we asked someone what a good amount of money to have in the future would be, they might say $500,000, or maybe they were extreme and said $1 million. But I'm telling you, if you can't earn another dollar other than your retirement account, and you're going to live off that for 30 years, $500,000 or $1 million isn't going to get you anywhere, especially when it's sitting inside of a 401k and it's yet to be taxed. I really think the government has their eye on that. I don't care what political persuasion we're talking about. There's a Republican in New Jersey that said, I don't know why we're so concerned about, the tax deficits. We haven't even hit the 401ks yet. And so I think it's a sitting duck, and it's actually FBO, which means it's for your benefit, meaning you're not the owner, you're the beneficiary of the plan. You've now given your money 100% to the government, and they can choose what the rules are going to be upon distribution.
It's very scary. It's like taking a loan out without knowing the interest rate. A lot of people will listen to what you just said and say, hey, that makes a lot of sense, Garrett. However, my company does a 401k match. What do you say to people who get up to 100%, such as some of these government workers and their 401k plans?
Well, I first would ask them, when do they get that money? If they put money in it gets matched, number one, is it vested? Or when is it vested? Number two is if taxes go up, and we look at the tax history, so from 1913 till today, there's only really been about a decade where taxes have been lower than they are even now, because the average marginal rate, the top rate, has been in the 66% range, and today it's a good 30% lower than that. So, yeah, maybe you get a match, but what happens when you take that out? And what is that match really doing? There's kind of this match myth. Even Time Magazine had an article that said, why it's time to retire the 401k. And it shows that when you put money in and get matched, the older you are, the less efficient it is. And it's not actually a 100% rate of return because they haven't matched your old dollars. So that matched dollar might only really make a few percentage difference over a really long period of time. And here's the bigger concern. We don't know what the fees are inside of that program that start to eat away at that match because they haven't been that disclosed, and finally there's legislation making it become disclosed. The next thing is you don't really get that money until the future, so what happens if the market doesn't perform when you go to get that money? Did you really get to enjoy or benefit from that match at that point? Or even worse, because you've been enticed to do something that maybe wasn't the best for you, what if there were other things that were more important or better opportunities, but now you've locked your money up into that program that you couldn't get access to? So there's just too many uncertainties, and I think it's harmful this mindset of free money. Nothing's free. There's major cost to putting that money in there, even if there is a match. And if you're with a small enough employer, you can probably convince them just to pay you that much so you can manage your money on your own. We've seen people do that over and over again. Now, big corporations may not be as flexible, but I'm telling you, it's not what most people think it is. If they really put the math to it, and if they saw what other alternatives they had, I mean, maybe getting a match one time might make sense, but why get into something if you don't know how to get out of it, or if you don't know how it's going to perform, or what risks you're taking? There's just too many unknown variables.
Garrett, does your dislike and exposing problems to the 401k expand to the Roth 401k and the Roth IRA?
Well, it's kind of like, I guess I don't have this as strong a feeling, but I still wouldn't put a penny of my money in it. Because if you read the fine print of the Roth, it says it's tax deferred and under certain circumstances can be withdrawn tax free. What that means is they could add a sundry tax that would say if you had too much money in there or you took such XYZ distribution in a given year, they might choose to start adding taxes and they reserve the right to make the change. So what I like more about a Roth is you can typically maneuver quicker, get the money out, and you get your principal back without tax or penalty. So you may only be paying that penalty on the interest or the additional tax on the interest you earn if you withdrew it early. So you have a little bit more flexibility. But still, what are you putting in, what are you investing in inside of this Roth vehicle? And who controls it? It's still the government. And what different fees are involved in the administration of that wouldn't be involved in some other type of investing plan? So it's kind of like it only has 70% of the problem instead of 100% of the problem.
Yeah, it's such a mindless activity. I know people with just old 401ks from old employers that don't even know what's in them. From all the people you've talked to, how many people actually know what they're investing in?
I mean, I can't even think of more than a handful that are crystal clear about it unless they went self-directed and then they specifically chose the investment. But I was on, Neil Cavuto interviewed me because of my position on 401ks. I thought he was going to take my side. He actually didn't because he said it was mindless, and he actually listed that as a benefit, that it was mindless. And he said it should be onerous to get to our money because I was baffled, and I actually thought he was joking around or playing devil's advocate, but he wasn't. He was serious about it. So most of it's mutual funds, and here's the problem with the mutual fund. If the market's going down, like Jeffrey Zinnick, he managed the Magellan Fund in the late 90s, and he knew that the market was going to have some turmoil and trouble, so he moved everything to cash or bonds. Well, he got fired, and Fidelity got sued because it was a growth fund, and you can't move out of growth stocks even if it's not the right place to be. So they get their fee whether you make money or not, yet they're teaching us to take high risk to get high returns, but they take almost no risk, and they get the returns, whether the market performs or not. I think they're playing by different rules than they're teaching, and that mutual fund holds a bunch of companies that people might not ever want to support. They don't know what's going on in the boardrooms of those companies. They don't know why it would earn a rate of return, and they don't even know who the fund manager is. That's a lot of risk because we're so far removed from that investment, but they've convinced us that enough people are doing it that it's just the safe, right thing to do. I mean, the talking heads might say, oh, yeah, it's going to average 8% over the next 20 years. Well, how do they know that? That average isn't even reality. That's not taking into account volatility or fees or anything else, and the fees are astronomical in most of these programs. Mutual fund fees plus the admin fees for the 401k, that's like a double dip, essentially, on your money.
You've mentioned the fees, which is a huge part of why this is Wall Street's cash cow. I wanted to ask you, essentially you have the American middle class buying on the 1st and the 15th. They're basically bringing in fresh buyers for the stock market and for the traders. There's someone on the other side of that trade. Have you seen any numbers or data about how maybe there might be something else where Wall Street is cashing in on this thing besides the fees?
Well, if you think about why the 90s happened as far as a big run-up in the market, it's because you were able to extract a ton of people's money that weren't ordinarily putting money in the market because we went away from pensions, which is a good thing because I think pensions are maybe the worst thing. They make a 401k look minor in problem. But now that people had to start contributing to this, it was pretty predictable where the money was going to go. Tons of it's going to the S&P 500, and so there were people who profited massively off of that. And I kind of look at it like a poker game. And it's a poker game. We're sitting at the table with these institutional investors, these hedge fund managers, but we don't know that's who they are. And what happens is they let us win just enough for a few years or for however long, and then one day they decide to play their cards and they take all the money. And what happens is the news reports that as a loss in the market. But it's not a loss. Money doesn't evaporate. It transfers hands because of an ignorance tax. And 401ks are one of the best ways to get people to participate in this ignorance or this transfer of wealth, because we don't know what's going on, because it's that autopilot philosophy. And when you think about it, it's the most brilliant things the institutions have ever done, because for them, not for us. Because number one, not only do they get your money to invest, they get the government's money because it's pre-tax. They want you to keep the money there as long as possible. Well, they've got restrictions, and they use the word penalty because people are afraid of that word, so they don't want to take money out. So now they've got the money in even longer. That restriction lasts till at least 59 and a half. They're talking about extending that. And when people go to take the money out, they hated paying taxes. That's why they put money in the program. They still hate paying taxes in later years, so they never even take it out. And if they don't take it out by 70 and a half, they get levied with a 50% penalty on their minimum required distribution. This is a work of art, and it's like a deception beyond belief that people have fallen prey to this thing, because it takes only a little bit of critical thinking to go, why am I doing this? People have money go down the drain in this, but they don't open their statements because their neighbors are doing it as well. And they go, oh, that's just what the market does. Well, other people, like Paulson's making $25 billion when something happens in the market where it goes down, and these other people think everyone else is losing. No, some people are gaining that are in the know, and people in the 401k continue to stay ignorant.
Okay, so you brought up some good points that I've never even considered, like as far as the money going to the 401k and it's not going somewhere else. Who knows what people could be building or doing with this money? This leads me to, what are the alternatives that you suggest to people instead of contributing to a 401k?
So here's the problem, too. Let me get just a little bit more philosophy before I give you the real practical piece here. If we watch CNBC, for example, which when I was on CNBC, they didn't invite me back because they didn't like what I had to say because it was against their advertisers. But everything's complicated if you watch it and listen to it for the average person. I mean, heck, I'm in finance, and some of them going, what are they even talking about right now? But then every commercial is about retirement planning. Yeah. So what they're getting people to think is investing equals stock market, retirement equals stock market. Like, it's synonymous. There are no other options. And because, as far as people are concerned, that's what investing is, they don't even consider other alternatives. But even more important than that is they don't take care of their stability and security today in the name of funding a 401k. So rather than say, do I have the liquidity in my savings? Do I have a little bit of precious metals like some gold and silver inside of my safe? Do I have the proper types of insurance on the catastrophic levels that I can transfer my risk so that when some financial surprise happens, which is inevitable during our lifetime, it won't be financially devastating? People don't think about those things first because they think they need to chase some, get the compound interest working, that the sooner I can get money in the 401k, the better. And because of that deception, they end up robbing from it anyway because they have to handle short-term cash flow pinches when these surprises come up and start to become financially devastating. And so it's really even worse than what we originally think of the market underperforming, the fees that are involved. When we look at the behavior of the individual, because they didn't take care of themselves properly up front, they end up having to utilize that and pay interest to get to their own money, or pay a penalty to get to that money, plus the taxes. So they're really at a disadvantage the first day they put money in this, before they've got 6 months liquidity in their savings, a little bit of insurance, not like, I'm just talking about like catastrophic coverages, like limits of liability, like upper limits on a health savings account, like just the stuff that if there was a major thing, that they are not completely, devastated. And if they start there, then they can start thinking about investing. But a 401k should be the last place they put it, because it doesn't benefit them today. It doesn't create more cash flow. It doesn't create more certainty. It for sure doesn't create more stability, but it definitely doesn't create more liquidity because there's so many restrictions and rules. So I know I kind of went off on a little diatribe there before I get to the answer, but that's step one: stability and security and liquidity today.
Real diversification. Obviously, you're right. Everyone hears the word diversification and they think it's a balance between bond stocks and mutual funds. I assume you're talking about cash flowing businesses, cash flowing real estate, physical things in your own life that you manage and control, correct?
Yeah, like for me, I have one investment. It's my company. And I put my money into that. And when I don't put my money into that company, I just keep it liquid, because here's another lie. It's okay to be in cash. We think we always have to be invested. Seasoned investors will sit on cash for a time until they know what to invest in. They don't just see the first opportunity and jump on it. And everyone has to kind of learn their investing DNA. Where do they have knowledge? Where do they have interest? I know that there's some technology that's a good investment, but I don't invest in it because I don't keep up on technological trends, and I don't have any level of genius around technology, and I don't want to be a daily money manager of my own dollars, but I want to be responsible for any money that I invest, to know when it's a good time to sit in cash and be on the sidelines. Most people can't answer that, which means they shouldn't be investing in things that have risk and volatility. They should stay in more stable, more guaranteed things. So I invest everything back into my business, and I even got out of real estate just because it was too much of a distraction. But if someone's really great at real estate, they have a passion, they have a knowledge, that could be a great asset because they have a little bit more control over what value they create with that. If someone's not good at that, they should stay away from it. But you know what? In my business, when I invest in it, I can increase my cash flow, I can increase my equity, and I can see what's going on in that boardroom and have influence over it. You don't see Apple, when they're sitting on a bunch of cash, going, we need to diversify this money by just putting our money in the S&P 500 or putting our money into the Dow. They go instead and say, we'll sit on this and we'll buy companies that we can actually do something with, or we'll reinvest into our company. And you know the time they finally start really using that cash is recessionary times, where everyone else gets into a cash crunch and they scale back and they pick up major market share. That's the difference in investing in reality versus investing as an individual that's taught and trained by people that make money on transactions, not on real investing in big philosophy.
Yeah, it's such a great point that you've brought up right now. Even in my own life, I've struggled with that desire. We've all been conditioned. Apparently, you've broken free from it completely. You make money and then you want to reallocate it and distribute it to other investments beside what you've been making your money in, which could be a great business. I want to close this out with retirement itself. This is the 20th century invention, pretty much, and I don't know how it's going to work out for baby boomers. It looks like it's not going to work out at all. The idea of golfing and endless vacations is not going to happen for them. I just want to know how you see your life playing out. Do you think of retiring, or do you just keep doing what you do because you obviously love it?
Well, look, I think that states like California and Illinois are about to implode because of this retirement philosophy, where they work somewhere because they felt that there was some golden handcuff called a pension, that one day they could go live the good life and retire. But you know what? There's only so long I can sit on a beach. I went to Hawaii a few weeks ago. It was fun, but I was ready to come home. I enjoyed it. Then I came back to life. I'm taking mini vacations, like I'm heading to Italy and Venice next month, Venice, Italy, and then to Nice, and then to Monaco next month for 10 days. I'm just living what most people wait for 30 years today, and then I come and I enjoy my work when I'm home. And I invest in the things that I really enjoy and that I love and that I want to be part of. And see, why not do that? Because when people retire, they lose control over their money because they no longer earn it. They're reliant upon the market to earn it. They don't have as quality of relationships as they thought because now they're afraid because if interest rates don't cooperate. They might not have as much money to do the things that they want to do, and they might start cutting back, which can hurt relationships. Or if they lose purpose, they lose that excitement for life, and it can really hurt their health or what their purpose or what their enjoyment in life is. So I'm already living what I would consider retirement. I just hope to do it more and more efficiently year by year, but I'm building memories along the way because you can never get back the memories you never have. And I had 2 business partners die when they were 35 years old. In a plane crash. So I'm not about to wait till I'm 65 to finally enjoy life. when maybe my body starts breaking down, or I don't feel like traveling. I'm doing some of that along the way. But retire? No way. I retire by retiring from the things I hate doing in my business and finding people that like that, and building a business that allows me to express my passion and my purpose and my enjoyment, and at the same time financially reward me for it.
Phenomenal advice. I think it's food for the soul, the things that you're saying. Garrett Gunderson of Freedom Fast Track. Where's the best place to reach out to or to use your consulting services?
Well, if people go to freedomfasttrack.com/gift, GIFT, they can get a segment of 7 videos, short, one's on credit, one's on investing, one's on insurance, one's on business, and just get snippets of things that they can do to improve their financial situation in alignment with the philosophy we talked today. So they'll see alternatives to a 401k. They'll see what they can do to have more control over their cash flow and get an idea of what we're up to. So that, I'd like to give that to them. And then if they want to, investigate more, they can also kind of follow links and stuff after the videos to check us out on a deeper level.
Garrett Gunderson, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks, man. I enjoyed it.